The Navy took on a tough mission to pull a sunken airplane out of the ocean. But when they finally lifted the aircraft from the deep, they found something so surprising, no one could believe it. The sonar screen blinked strangely, cutting through the quiet morning aboard the naval ship USS Orion. Lieutenant Mark Ramos, working the sonar station, leaned in and adjusted the controls, now fully focused. He had been tracking a fake submarine used for training, but what showed up next wasn't part of any plan. The sonar flickered again, showing something odd, an object that didn't belong in the middle of the open Atlantic. "Captain, you'll want to see this," Ramos said, his voice tight with curiosity and a hint of worry. Captain Sarah Bennett had been overseeing the drill from the bridge. Hearing the tone in Ramos's voice, she moved quickly, coming down to the sonar station. She stared at the screen, her eyes narrowing. The reading showed a large metallic shape that clearly didn't match the usual ocean floor features. With a mix of curiosity and caution, Bennett gave the order to shift focus. "Let's find out what's sitting down there," she said, directing the crew to prepare for a closer look. Dr. Emily Chin, a naval historian on board for research, joined them, clearly intrigued by what they might have found. As the USS Orion hovered over the marked location, a quiet tension filled the air. The crew launched a remotely operated underwater vehicle, UUV, fitted with cameras and sonar tools, down to the sea floor. The first images were blurry, but when the UUV switched on its lights, the shape of a plane slowly appeared through the darkness. The crew stared at the screen, eyes wide. What had started as a simple training exercise had suddenly turned into a real mission. And they didn't know it yet, but the biggest surprise was still coming. "A plane? Here?" Dr. Chin said under her breath, frowning as she double-checked flight paths and ocean maps. There was no record of any aircraft disappearing in this part of the Atlantic. Things got even stranger when the UUV sent back clearer footage showing the aircraft mostly intact, its body preserved by the cold salt water. On the side, a faded logo peeked out from under years of marine growth. Based on what Dr. Chin could quickly dig up, it looked like a commercial airliner from the 1960s, lost in a storm and never seen again. The discovery led to a sudden shift in plans. Captain Bennett ordered the team to retrieve the plane's black box and any identifiable objects, hoping to learn what really happened and maybe bring closure to any unanswered stories. The dive crew got ready to head down, drawn by the pull of the deep sea and the secrets it had kept hidden. But nothing could have prepared them for what they were about to find. As the divers reached the aircraft, they spotted something strange. The cockpit wasn't just sealed shut by rust. It was clamped from the outside with metal braces that clearly weren't part of the original plane. Someone had gone down there and deliberately sealed it off after the crash. They radioed the update back to Captain Bennett, who was now faced with a tough choice. Forcing it open could damage important evidence or disturb what might be someone's final resting place. After a short discussion with Naval Command and Dr. Chin, Bennett gave the green light for a slow, careful entry. The divers followed orders, working with precision. But what they found inside took everyone by surprise. There were no pilot remains, no flight instruments, just a waterproof safe bolted to the floor, completely out of place and offering no clue about how or why it ended up there. Back on board the USS Orion, the tension was thick as the safe was brought up. The crew stood by as Captain Bennett and Dr. Chin opened it, revealing a stack of old documents and photographs, somehow perfectly preserved. Inside was a flight manifest, one that didn't match any known records. The names listed were of high-profile individuals thought to have disappeared in a totally different incident. That discovery triggered a wave of calls to Naval Command and historical researchers. The team began stitching together a piece of forgotten history, connecting the dots between passengers on this lost flight and world events from the 1960s. Bennett and her crew realized they hadn't just pulled up a wreck, they'd uncovered a story that would grab the attention of historians and theorists for years. Whatever the full truth was, it had been waiting down there all this time. As morning sunlight stretched across the deck of the USS Orion, the mood was a mix of focus and curiosity. The documents had sparked serious interest, and now it was time to dig deeper into the aircraft itself. Captain Bennett called her top divers together. Leading them was Master Diver Thomas Lee, known for his calm and skill in deep-sea recoveries. Their task was clear: get inside the plane, document everything, and bring back anything that might help solve the mystery of this flight that was never supposed to exist. The dive team made their way into the deep, guided only by the sharp beams of their underwater flashlights. The aircraft came into view slowly, ghost-like in the murky water, its body warped from years under pressure. As they got closer, a sudden strong current pushed through, kicking up clouds of sand and debris. Visibility dropped fast. The divers tightened formation, leaning on their training to stay on task. The unexpected surge made the dive riskier and tested everyone's nerves. Inside the wreck, diver Jessica Morales spotted something odd. A briefcase strapped to one of the passenger seats with a metal chain. It didn't match the time period, and it felt like someone had gone to great lengths to keep it secured. She took her time cutting through the chain, careful not to disturb anything that might hold forensic clues. Meanwhile, in the cargo area, things took another unexpected turn. One of the divers uncovered a hidden space below the floor. The compartment was expertly concealed, clearly designed to avoid detection. Inside, they found old radio equipment, nothing like the kind used in commercial planes from that era. Just as the dive was wrapping up, Master Diver Lee spotted something else tucked inside the pilot's logbook: a small, sealed envelope. It hadn't been noticed before. The word "confidential" was scribbled across the front in rushed, uneven handwriting. The tone of it all hinted that someone had been desperate to leave a message behind. When the divers surfaced, the team waiting topside could sense something had changed. Captain Bennett and Dr. Chin stood ready, eyes searching for answers in every recovered item. The briefcase, the hidden gear, and that envelope, all of it pointed to a flight that was hiding much more than anyone expected. Then, just as the crew began securing the items for storage, a strange glitch hit the ship. The main communication system cut out without warning, breaking contact with Naval Command for several tense minutes. The timing felt too perfect to be coincidence, and it left some wondering whether their discovery had triggered unwanted attention. The dive didn't just add to the mystery, it raised bigger questions. Who was on that plane? What were they carrying? And why had it all been kept quiet? As the USS Orion headed back toward land with the evidence locked down, Captain Bennett knew the mission had only scratched the surface. Once docked, Captain Bennett called a meeting with her senior staff and Dr. Chin to go over their next steps. Back at the naval base, they began working with the National Archives and the FAA to trace where the aircraft had come from. After digging through old serial numbers and missing flight reports, they finally matched it: a commercial airliner that disappeared during a transatlantic flight from Paris to New York. Records showed it had been quietly removed from public logs for reasons no one could yet explain. As the investigation continued, the team uncovered more surprising details. The flight had been transporting several high-profile passengers, including a well-known scientist involved in nuclear fusion research, something that had never been made public. That one fact alone raised serious questions. Could this have been more than a routine flight? Maybe even a covert mission? It might explain why the entire disappearance had been buried for decades. The briefcase pulled from the wreckage was opened in a secured lab. Inside, they found a series of encrypted messages and a strange mechanical device that no one could immediately identify. The contents were anything but ordinary. It was becoming clear. These passengers hadn't just vanished in a tragic crash. They might have been part of something secret, something never meant to come to light. While that was being examined, Dr. Chin turned her attention to the sealed envelope from the pilot's logbook. She followed strict preservation steps before carefully opening it. Inside was a handwritten letter from the pilot himself. The words were tense, personal. He questioned the safety of their mission and even hinted that it might not be legal. He wrote of fears for his own life if the plane's real purpose was ever found out. His words told a different story, one that didn't line up with the official version claiming a storm had taken the aircraft. The team now understood they had to move forward with caution. What they were uncovering had deep, far-reaching implications. The kind that could draw the attention of people, or governments who preferred these kinds of secrets stayed buried. Then came another twist. When experts analyzed the old radio equipment from the hidden compartment, they found it had been used to communicate with a known Soviet spy vessel. That changed everything. It pointed directly to Cold War tensions and opened up the possibility of international espionage being at the heart of the cover-up. As the scope of the mystery grew, naval intelligence authorized a full recovery of the sunken aircraft. Captain Sarah Bennett was given the go-ahead to lead the effort. The plan involved not just Navy divers, but also specialists in maritime archaeology and forensic science, all brought in to handle the aircraft with extreme care. The recovery team, now fully equipped with advanced lifting tools and underwater robots, headed back to the site. The plane wasn't just a wreck anymore, it was a historical artifact, and whatever was left inside could be crucial to understanding the full story. As the operation got underway, news of it had already reached the public. Media from around the world started to follow every move. But then, just as things were gaining momentum, a legal obstacle brought everything to a halt. A foreign government stepped in, claiming the aircraft had been carrying diplomatic cargo. They demanded an immediate stop to the recovery, pointing to international laws that protect diplomatic materials found in global waters. The entire operation was paused and high-level talks began to deal with the new situation. While negotiations dragged on, a team member reviewing sonar data noticed something strange near the original crash site, an anomaly that had gone undetected until now. It looked like more wreckage, and there was a chance it could be linked to the mystery surrounding the plane. With official permission still tied up in red tape, Captain Bennett made a quiet decision. She authorized a discreet dive to investigate the new target. The divers approached the site and discovered a small sunken submersible. Inside, they found old photographic gear and rolls of undeveloped film. It looked like it had been on a surveillance mission, possibly spying on the very flight they were now trying to understand. Back on the USS Orion, the pieces were starting to come together. Forensic experts made progress with the mechanical device found in the briefcase. It turned out to be an early form of data storage, holding a list of Cold War-era code-named projects. The implication was clear: this flight had been part of a much larger intelligence operation, and whatever it had carried, someone had gone to great lengths to keep it buried. Not long after, the plane's recovery finally resumed. Diplomatic agreements had been reached with promises to protect sensitive materials during the process. As the aircraft was carefully lifted from the ocean floor, part of its tail broke away, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside were sealed containers clearly marked with biohazard symbols. The mystery somehow had deepened even further. The mood aboard the USS Orion shifted. What had begun as a search for answers was now raising serious concerns. The containers were dated from the Cold War period and hinted that the plane might have been transporting biological materials, perhaps even something dangerous or experimental. Captain Bennett quickly called an emergency meeting with her senior officers and scientific advisors. A specialized biohazard team was flown in to handle the containers with care. But what they found surprised everyone. The contents weren't lethal pathogens as feared, but deteriorating samples of a rare, now extinct plant species once studied for its medicinal qualities. The samples could be highly valuable for future genetic research. That news sparked immediate interest. Several pharmaceutical companies and genetic researchers around the world began paying close attention. One company even claimed to hold patents on genetic sequences from the same plant, kicking off a legal fight over who had rightful ownership of the samples and what could be done with them. As that legal storm grew louder, the film rolls from the submersible were finally developed. The photos showed the aircraft mid-flight, taken just moments before it vanished. Some images also captured cargo being loaded, evidence that tied the plane to several military bases not officially acknowledged. The images suggested this wasn't the work of one country, but part of a broader coordinated operation involving multiple international players. Meanwhile, Dr. Emily Chin uncovered something hidden behind a panel in the aircraft's lavatory, letters between the pilot and an unknown contact. The notes spoke of a dangerous mission and hinted that the pilot had been forced into it, with threats made against his family if he refused. As more messages from the mechanical device were decoded, the team found a reference to a secret project called Eden's Vault. This operation seemed focused on tracking rare plants around the world as part of a Cold War bioengineering effort meant to help prevent a possible global food crisis. In the final stages of the mission, Captain Sarah Bennett found herself at the center of a complex situation, balancing global interest, political pressure, and ethical questions about what they had uncovered. The eyes of the world were on the USS Orion and everything it brought to the surface. As arguments over who owned the genetic samples grew more intense, an international science summit was held to decide what to do. With input from both researchers and health experts, the group agreed to create an open-source database of the plant's genetic material. The goal was to make the information available to benefit everyone, not just private companies. It was a rare moment of cooperation. At the same time, the pilot's hidden letters led to a new investigation and a shocking discovery. The pilot hadn't died in the crash. He had survived and lived quietly under a different name in South America. He shared his story in a secure video call describing the pressure and threats he faced from high-level officials who forced him into that flight. Then came one more surprise. The final encrypted message from the old radio gear revealed a list of similar missions, secret Cold War operations that had never moved forward. This sparked quiet meetings with current officials who hadn't even known these plans existed. A full review of old classified projects was launched, with an effort to release anything no longer considered sensitive. The photos recovered from the submersible also led to something important. The lost crew who took those pictures, once forgotten, were finally honored for their sacrifice. Their families were brought to a memorial service where the photos were displayed as part of a tribute to their quiet but vital role in the discovery. All of this, the hidden flight, the recovered samples, and the decades of buried truth, came to light because of Captain Bennett and her team. Her leadership led to a televised congressional hearing where the public learned the full story of what had been found and what it meant. She had managed to walk the tightrope between openness and national security with care. Afterward, she took time to reflect on everything that had happened. Inspired by the mission's impact, she led the creation of a new naval initiative focused on historical transparency. The goal was to uncover and release details about other long-forgotten operations, building trust and accountability. She hoped it would help ensure that such a tangled, hidden chapter in history would never repeat itself. Thank you for coming along on this amazing journey. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the Navy's incredible discovery in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video so more people can explore this remarkable story with us.